History has been made in the past 24 hours. A change has been reverted on RA that has been around for about 5 years now. uh, I'm just gonna be working on this on the side as we talk about it in the background, and my RetroArch still has audio problems, so just remember that I will be speeding up. I don't have surf, funny, but yeah, so if you don't know anything about RA, I'll do a quick rundown of one, what the site is, what the decision was about 5 years ago, and what has changed. So basically, Retro Achievements itself is just adding achievements to older games. Get a full party of Pokemon, beat the Elite Four with a Caterpie. There's always achievements that go extend the difficulty and bring a bunch of different shit forward. And then there's the ones that, to be brutally honest, are kind of not noteworthy. But overall, it's a place where you can explore games again from back in the day with achievements. Very basic. But there's always been an argument of how games are similar to each other. You, of course, have a bunch of ports that are basically the same. Pac Man comes to mind as having dozens upon dozens of ports that are all the same. You have Super Mario with a bunch of ports, so that's a little different at times. Uh, but when it comes down to the overall concept of similar games, a lot of them are just necessarily allowed. It's not that they deserve to be. It's just it's really hard to argue sometimes on like whether they should be allowed or not. Like, do the changes actually matter? It becomes very very problematic. But one of the ones that happened to be a big issue back in the day was, of course, Pokemon Red and Blue. If you don't know, Red and Blue is honestly one of the most similar of all games on the site because it's just the version exclusives that change. Of the version differences in Pokemon, it is one of the ones that suffer the most of being super early. And similar to Gold and Silver, where it's just the Pokemon differences with very little anything, it was a problem to determine how to make achievements and that they were too similar to each other, which is fine. It's honestly a pretty hard stance to sit on because a lot of people would love to have both badges of mastering Pokemon Red and Blue. I think I'm in the wrong area for this, honestly, but most people would have love to have the badges, but that was not the case. And Pokemon Blue and Red were one merged into one set, and Pokemon Blue was retired. If you had played back then, you would have a grayed out badge, which it was cool to have, but it's just it. The merge was depending on who you are, well received or not. Personally, I was never a big fan of it. Why'd I go this way? Um, but I ultimately went, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. And we'll move along our merry way. Why am I going in a circle? This is not fun. What am I doing? But, uh, and so the merge happens, and basically people kind of shut up about it. It gets brought up every so often, but for the most part, it was in fact just fine. People aren't going to make a big deal of something that isn't going to be changed. I know some people would gripe about it, but funnily enough, a lot of them didn't even have the badge for Pokemon Blue in the first place. They just wanted to complain because they love to complain. But when it comes down to it, eventually things change. A lot of people want to see the sets get unmerged. We saw a bunch of Pokemon sets get changed over time. Some became much more like strategy focused in like battle collecting everything. Whereas, for example, like Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, Sapphire focuses on the contests, whereas this might be better. Ruby focuses on like collecting everything and battling, which is always the kind of weird difference, but overall, it was fine. It gets better as time goes on, but the problem sets were Heart Gold Soul Silver, which was merged because of Red and Blue at the time, and well, Red and Blue while we're playing. So eventually, the idea of a revision comes around, and they want to unmerge the sets. Overall, it's fine. I don't necessarily disagree with the idea, but the old badge is now gone, which whether they make the decision or not to include something, I don't really care necessarily, because I'm gonna get the new badge eventually. Whenever I am, I just not gonna whatever. Okay, fine. But when it comes to the overall like process and whether we get something that like agrees with all groups here is kind of not going to happen. So overall, I thought it was kind of weird to have this change now, um, to such a degree because it's been a ridiculous amount of time. Uh, but it's also kind of rude to the old players. Okay, we're gonna die, but so the old players that sat around during the history of older RA, I do want to point out we had maybe 100,000 people around this time versus the million that are now on the site. So it's kind of a backhand to the old players that were part of history at the time. Um, and while I don't necessarily blame what's going on like the newer developer or even the older developers, it's a very sticky situation. I do want to bring out that it's a little bit of a backhand. It's a little bit annoying, but overall, it is fine to a certain extent. I do think this is a very specific situation, and I don't really think it's going to happen again. I'm just looking for anything. I think I got everything I wanted, but overall, it's like kind of a weird situation. And if you are on RA, and you are a bit of the older crowd, I do want to ask you, like, do you think it's fine the way it sits? Because there's something to be said about. He immediately woke up? That's rude. Wow. Let's just get out of here. Do I have an escape rope? I do. Whee. But overall, I just want to hear what other people believe because personally, I kind of lean towards it being a retired badge and then having the new badge because it is history you are racing. But yeah, this kind of just a little thing to bring up. Overall, I think I got most of the events correct. It has been a long time since the merge and unmerge uh, initial process began, and now we're in a new one, which is fun. The set is good. I think the set overall is fine. I do have a few nitpicks, but that's just me as always. I'm gonna go back to playing without audio by myself again, which is not enjoyable a lot of the time. But hey, welcome to death, and yeah, that's it. Just kind of bringing forth kind of the what's going down with the merge and so on. So yeah.